Hello folks, and welcome. This is Greg Gilbert, host of Python's Paradise, doing my next segment for the 1996 film reviews, where I take a half a dozen films and talk about them. And we are focusing now on February 1996 and some of the films that I've selected from then. Now, we start out with, of course, February 2nd with Black Sheep. Now, sad to say, I never got into Chris Farley. I never did. I'd seen Tommy Boy, I'd seen Black Sheep, I'd seen Beverly Hills Ninja, I'd seen Almost Heroes. I mean, outside Saturday Night Live, I can't think of anything he'd done that was really funny. He was very loud. It just seemed to be the louder he was, the more over the top. And for me, it did not work with him. I saw Black Sheep. We got late here. I ended up seeing it when I saw Hellraiser Bloodline, a double feature, and that came March. But I wasn't a big fan of Tommy Boy, and I know that's a popular film, and that was one that he and David Spade had done, and I wasn't a big fan of this one any better. And of course the plot, David Spade has to kind of get Chris Farley out of the picture because his brother is in politics and needs to run his campaign, and they need Chris Farley out of the way, and there's a road movie shenanigans. And of course, the black sheep of the title is Chris Farley, the guy that you don't suspect that's going to make the difference. And of course, in this movie, he did not for me anyway. But probably the strongest argument I can make for this film is some of the physical humor regarding the cabin in it. Kind of reminded me of Charlie Chaplin's 1925 classic, The Gold Rush, which is a far superior movie to this, And, but nonetheless, I'm not a big fan of this movie. It scores a 2 out of 10 for me, ranks low. Then we move up to February 9th, where I had the pleasure of seeing a film. I did not know what I was going to think of this, but boy, this was a great one. Beautiful Girls. And there were some beautiful girls in this, whether it be Lon Holly, whether it be, who else off the top of my head? Uma Thurman was in that, future beautiful girl, Natalie Portman. I thought this movie was terrific. Of course, it's about a class reunion. I think a 10-year class reunion set in the wintertime. And Timothy Hutton arrives home, and he's getting together some of his buddies, including Matt Dillon, who is having an affair with a married woman. Trouble, shenanigans. And you got Michael Rappaport, who's always fun, playing somebody who's obsessed with supermodels and has them plastered all over his bedroom wall. But you got some really terrific female performances in this as well. I mean, we mentioned, of course, Lon Holly as the married woman in question, and she was still had the red hair like in Dumb and Dumber and looked stunning. Uma Thurman in this as well. But some of the standouts for me, there were 2 female performances in this movie that stood out to me. One was Rosie O'Donnell, who had a really good year in 1996, because she's also in Harriet the Spy, and she doesn't get enough credit for what she can do, and when Rosie's got the right material, she flourishes. And in the case of Beautiful Girl, she's got a great moment where she's talking to some of the boys in this convenience store about guys' unrealistic expectations when it comes to women, and she's criticizing what porno magazines and a lot of model magazines have for women. Often used filters for their photos on the covers of magazines versus real women. And it's a great moment in the film. It's one of the standout moments, and Rosie O'Donnell shines there. Another female performance that really shines in this is Natalie Portman, who I believe this might have been her first thing. Maybe, I don't quote me on it, since she was in Leon the Professional, where she was, of course, the young kid in the movie, and here she's still a young kid. And Natalie Portman has come such a long way, and she comes off as wise beyond her years. Like, she strikes me as, in real life, a very smart woman. And you see a lot of that come through, not just in Leon the Professional, but also in Beautiful Girls. Timothy Hutton runs into her when he sees her out in the playground at school, just doing whatever, and they strike up a friendship. There's no shenanigans, or anything like that. They just have a conversation. And you can see his admiration of her, when I look at her through his eyes, I'm like seeing there's somebody that's going to make a difference. Is this girl? As soon as she becomes an adult, she's going to be somebody. Not that she can't be somebody as a teenager or a kid, but she's going to be somebody that's going to make a difference to whatever it is she pursues. And Natalie Portman is the other scene stealer of this movie. I give Beautiful Girls an A+, great music soundtrack, and it just feels like a really cool class reunion movie. An A+ all the way, a 10 out of 10. I give Beautiful Girls. Easily one of the best films of the year, Next up, we go to February 16th. And I want to talk about two comedies that came out that week. One is Happy Gilmore. Happy Gilmore is my personal favorite movie out of the films I'm going to talk about. But it's not going to rate the highest, because there's a difference between what the best film is and what personal favorite is. And sometimes personal favorites come into guilty pleasures, And Happy Gilmore, when I went to see that at Old Twin Cinemas, it was one of those movies that, at the time, because this was the first year I started film criticism, I thought critics were supposed to just hate Adam Sandler. So I didn't give it a very high rating. And looking at it now, it's a film I found myself relating to. You see, Adam Sandler plays Happy Gilmore. Why they named the kid Happy, I don't know. But it comes in total contrast to the fact that he has a bad temper. And, of course, he's obsessed with hockey, can really hit the puck well. But because of his temper, he gets himself into trouble. Well, he discovers that he can hit a golf ball. And I mean hit a golf ball long. Well, he's put in a position where his grandmother, who had taken him in when his father died, is losing her home. And he needs to earn a bunch of money for her to get her home back. And he ends up reluctantly have to do this with golf. Carl Weathers has a great little supporting role in this as somebody who's going to train him. He's got a wooden hand because an alligator bit his hand off. And there's a lot of sight jokes involving that wooden hand. But Carl Weathers says, forget about hockey. You have a great swing. And Adam Sandler goes into this because there's a chance to earn money. You get a couple other great supporting roles in this movie, too. Like, everybody remembers, and I've seen T-shirts of this, Christopher McDonald as Shooter McGavin. And between this and Tabby Tibbins as in Requiem for a Dream, Christopher McDonald is not a household name, but boy, he's played some recognizable characters. And Shooter McGavin, I don't see Happy Gilmore t-shirts, but I do see Shooter McGavin t-shirts, and I think it's cool. And boy, does he ever run with it. And Christopher McDonald steals every scene he's in, you know, and doing his little hits the ball, and he's the one that everybody's there to see, the big champion, but he's letting it go to his head, and of course gets into a clash with Happy Gilmore because Happy Gilmore is getting all the attention. He does not like this and becomes a spoil sport. And I gotta say, I heard the news today, rest in peace Bob Barker. He passed away today, aged 99. And a lot of people talk about him for the Price is Right. And I remember growing up watching him in that. I remember him even more now as beating up Adam Sandler in Happy Gilmore. Because they were in the celebrity competition, you know, and Adam Sandler goes, "The price is wrong, bitch." And Bob Barker grabs him by the throat. Bob Barker was a real trooper about that, I guess. And it was a scene-stealing moment in the movie. Everybody remembers Bob Barker beating the hell out of Adam Sandler. Now, with all these characters sounding good, it's sad that Julie Bowen, who is a stunning young woman, she just plays the love interest that's there as some kind of reporter or recruiter or something, you know, and her role wasn't that interesting. That was the one weak role, not her fault, but one weak role of the movie. With that said, Happy Gilmore gets a 6.5 out of 10. Would have got a 7 had her role not been so distractingly bad, but again, not her fault. But 6.5 out of 10, Happy Gilmore is still a guilty pleasure for me. It's not something that's got a great screenplay. I love the setup for it. It's got a very good setup with him and his jobs and his relationship with his father, his relationship with his grandmother, and even with the what's going on with his relation between hockey and golf. But all in all, it's very predictable. You know how it's going to turn out. But I'll say one thing on a personal note. I lost a job earlier this year due to my temper. And sometimes watching movies, you can relate to things. And one night, I just stuck Happy Gilmore in my Blu-ray player and watched a character whose patience and temper was being tested. And I enjoyed it. But 6.5 out of 10 for Happy Gilmore. The other one I want to talk about from that week is Mr. Wrong, which we did not get in our theaters here, but I really wanted to see it. Directed by Nick Castle, of course, was Michael Myers in the original Halloween. It's funny, this movie came out, I think, the year before Ellen DeGeneres came out as lesbian. And a lot of people hated this movie. I really wanted to see it. And, of course, Ellen DeGeneres is caught in a situation that so many of us single folks cannot stand. People looking at you saying, "When are you going to get married? When are you? When are you?" It's fucking bullshit. And Ellen's at a wedding and she's hearing the same thing. Well, she ends up catching the ire and the attention of Bill Pullman, who starts out ever so charming. But when she wants him to just be himself, not try to impress her, well, his true nature comes out as a manipulator, a thief, and a sociopath, and all the things wrong with relationships. Here's one thing I'm going to say about this movie. I think the setup is great. It certainly does not have the best screenplay, in the world. I'll agree on that. But I give this film a pass because you can tell Ellen, she's great when she's doing her talk show. I don't think she's terrible here. I think her reactions to a lot of the antics Bill Pullman's pulling are pretty funny. And but she doesn't look comfortable. But I'm not going to chastise her for it because, she's being asked to play a straight woman. And again, I know it's acting, and we've got actors who played gay characters before. It's acting. But maybe that was not what Ellen's strong point was. She does great on the talk show circuit. But I'm giving her a pass here because some of her looks and expressions, are great. And Bill Pullman, very after, of course, I wasn't a big fan of Casper, but he was in While You Were Sleeping, which was a nice, charming romantic comedy with Sandra Bullock, where he was playing the opposite of this character. And here he's just completely out of control. And I liked seeing that side of him as an actor. So, and of course, you got Joan Cusack playing his ex, who's also nuts, and you've got a lot of really good supporting characters in this. Dean Stockwell in this as well. I give Mr. Wrong a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10. Not as good as Happy Gilmore, but I don't think it's a bad attempt. I liked it better than Black Sheep. I'll say that. Now, moving on to February 21st, we have Wes Anderson's film debut, Bottle Rocket. Now, Wes Anderson's a filmmaker I've come to love, and he does some great stuff, like Moonrise Kingdom and Grand Budapest Hotel and so many terrific films. Bottle Rocket was his first, and it's one of those independent films. It's a great start for him, And of course, he's got the Wilson brothers, Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson, who end up, Luke Wilson comes out of this institution and he's trying to get his life back on the line again, and Owen Wilson wants to pull off some crimes, and they start off with some petty thefts at first, and they have to have a getaway driver. You get James Caan in this as well. And you just know this is going to catch up with them, And, of course, Luke Wilson ends up falling in love with a maid at a hotel, which adds to the story. He's done better than Bottle Rocket, but Bottle Rocket just proves that even when you have a limited budget, you can do something really interesting if you get a good screenplay, good locations, and some good actors. I was a little indifferent about the ending of the movie, but maybe it won't bother some of you. But in the end, I give Bottle Rocket an 8 out of 10. Definitely worth seeing, especially if you're a big Wes Anderson fan. Now, the last film I want to talk about in February 1996 came out February 24th, called The Late Shift. Wow. Like, I remember, I have vivid memories of when this was happening, when Johnny Carson was stepping down from the talk show circuit late night. And, of course, the two competing factors were David Letterman and Jay Leno. And who was going to take that and who was going to win. And Betty Thomas, the director, went on, of course, just did the Brady Bunch movie, would go on to do Private Parts with Howard Stern. This play would play as a great double feature with Private Parts. And you got John Michael Higgins playing David Letterman, and you got Daniel Roebuck playing Jay Leno. And their performances aren't bad. Nice likeness. And Kathy Bates steals her scenes as Leno's manager. I forget her name off the top of my head, but she just went nuts. But you got of course, Jay Leno ended up getting the spot, but things didn't turn out bad for David Letterman either. And in the end, this movie became a fascinating, often very amusing look into the late night race after one of the biggest icons in late night, Johnny Carson, had stepped down. I give The Late Shift a 10 out of 10. Now, looking at February 1996 in these films, the best film out of the bunch, between Beautiful Girls and The Late Shift, both are fantastic. I'm going to give top billing there to The Late Shift. Definitely check that film out if you get the chance, but Beautiful Girls definitely check out as well. A special mention to Bottle Rocket, which is not up there on the level of those other two films. However, my favorite film out of the bunch is Happy Gilmore, which I only gave a 6.5 to. But when you look at Happy Gilmore in conjunction to something like The Late Shift, it does not have the screenwriting and any of that stuff that The Late Shift or even Beautiful Girls has. It's very, very simplistic. But I gotta say, if The Late Shift is the best film out of the bunch I mentioned, then Happy Gilmore is definitely my favorite of the bunch I listed. In fact, I got that home on Blu-ray. It came in handy to relate to my temper when it flares. Worst film of the bunch of February 1996, Black Sheep. And it just was a black mark on that month, Not happy with that one. Black Sheep, a black mark, but you got a lot of stuff there you can choose from. So I just got done my Late Shift. It's time to go and get in preparation for March 1996. Peace out.